Hi, my name is Clearly, and I just got done sinking about 30 hours into this new city builder game called Frostpunk. It's a new game from the creators of This War of Mine, a game that I've barely played, but what I did experience was both neat and stressful. Sentiments that Frostpunk equally carries. I mean, when you hear something like city builder, you probably imagine something boring and or chill like city skylines, but Frostpunk manages to create an environment where city management becomes a stressful and hectic mess. That's mostly quite fun. This is because of what Frostpunk is about. The world is plunged into an apocalyptic ice age, and you're responsible for what could be one of the last civilizations on Earth. To read the specific plot summary directly from Wikipedia, Frostpunk is set in an alternate 1886 where the eruptions of Krakatoa and Mount Tambora, the dimming of the sun, and other unknown factors caused a worldwide volcanic winter. This in turn led to widespread crop failure and the death of millions. This event roughly lines up with the real-world eruption of Krakatoa, a volcanic event that led to global cooling. In response to this, several installations called generators were built in the coal-rich north, designed to be city centers in the event that dropping temperatures force mass migration from the south. Since this is most likely going to be my first critique video, I'll say right now that I'll most likely be using other sources, probably Wikipedia, for the plot summary. I don't really see a point in me rewording the plot. I'll probably do a sloppy job anyways. Thank you, Wikipedia. You've taught me more than high school. You control a generator and build in a radius around it, gathering resources and taking care of the survivors that take residence. Not only do you have to make the residents work to gather resources, but you have to make laws and moral decisions to maintain your reputation, which is divided into your people's hope and their discontent. On the topic of resources, you collect coal, wood, steel, raw food, and food rations. You also get steam cores later on, but those aren't a commonality like the other resources. Every act starts with these resources gathered around the generator for your people to collect, and then later on you can acquire them using the tools you unlock in the resources category of the workshop, or they can be found out in the Frostland by your scouts, one at a time. Coal can be acquired through coal thumpers, coal mines, and charcoal kilns, wood through sawmills and wall drills, and steel through the steelworks. Raw food can be acquired through the hunter's hut or the hothouse, and that raw food is turned into food rations at the cookhouse. Man, this section's gonna be pretty long. There's a lot of content here. The mines, drills, and steelworks are pretty much mandatory, seeing how the amount of each resource provided by them is infinite, while the sawmills only cut the trees in a circular radius, and charcoal kilns turn the wood you have into coal. I'm just gonna add right here, coal thumpers are, actually pretty cool. I've been playing the last few playthroughs I did of the scenarios. I used exclusively no coal mines, just coal thumpers and gathering posts. And you can get your coal production per day pretty high. And by pretty high, I mean like 4,000 coal a day. That was during the arcs. So, coal thumpers are actually fucking cool. It is good to have a balance in them all though. Like if you have too much wood, you can turn the excess wood into coal using a charcoal kiln. Have I talked about why coal is objectively the most important resource? Because it only fuels your generator to keep your people pleased and your buildings operating so you don't get tossed out into the frozen wastes. I mean, you can use other devices like steam hubs or heaters to keep your buildings warm, or research passive insulation for specific buildings to keep them warm and functioning. Before I get into insulation, I want to talk about another building that's an alternative to one that needs to be insulated, the Hunter's Hut. Workers assigned to the Hunter's Hut go out at night to hunt for raw food. You can upgrade your hunter's gear and tactics, and even make them into flying hunters. That's pretty much all that needs to be said about it. The daytime alternative to this is the hothouse, which is essentially a greenhouse where, during the daytime, workers grow the food to be cooked. Unlike the hunter's hut, the hothouse has to be insulated to operate, whereas the hunters go out into the Frostlands at night to get food. So the building doesn't have to be heated. And on that note, now I can start talking about steam cores. I know I'm all over the place. Maybe I'll work on a better way to format all of the content. Then again, this is a game of options. So, steam cores are a rare resource found out in the Frostlands by your scouts. Wait, shit, I haven't talked about scouts. Even in all three of Frostpunk's stories so far, the beacon is a crucial building to acquire by researching it in the workshop and building it. Using some wood and 5 workers, you can make a scout patrol to explore the Frostlands to gather resources from waypoint locations. You can also find survivors, which you can escort back to the generator, send back with the risk of them dying, or just leave them to die. Every location has its own backstory, and your scout patrols carry journals that you can read and delve into the lore of the world. You can have up to 3 scout patrols based on what you research, plus you can hella speed them up, which I would definitely recommend doing so, because there's a lot of locations to explore and loot. A few can even be made into outposts with another research building. You can have 2 outposts at a time that travel between your generator and the set outpost to deliver you resources. Along with every other resource gathering building, these outposts won't deliver you supplies if you're full of that specific resource. And back to Steam Cores. Scouting is pretty much the only way to get Steam Cores. Steam Cores are required to power upgraded drills, hothouses, infirmaries, which are upgraded medical posts, and automatons. Automatons are big spider-esque robots that can replace workers in a facility to gather resources all day and night at half of the efficiency of workers. I'm pretty sure some research can improve their efficiency, but for the sake of transparency, I'll admit I haven't really upgraded my automatons at all. I believe in my first run of the ARCs, I got the automaton scouts upgrade because I didn't know how to do a specific thing. After more playing, I can confirm you can upgrade the efficiency of automatons to 90% at the most. Automatons are great for when you're missing a few of a certain resource at night and you want to prepare for the morning, or to maintain a coal profit with your generator. There isn't really much else to say about the automatons, so I'm going to talk about a whole new topic to segue back to automatons. Man, I'm bad at this. We'll come back around after I talk about the laws. As the captain, you can pass new laws to affect the behavior of your people, and there's definitely a variety of paths you can approach. I'll be going over all of them. The default set of laws you can pass are Adaptation Laws. These laws are to find ways to battle hunger, sickness, and apathy. Now, personally, I have not used all of the sets of laws in Frostpunk, but I'm about to, for you guys. The shortest and most concise set of adaptation laws are the hunger laws. Now with these law paths, you're usually given 2 options to pick. If you pick one, it cancels the other. Red pill, blue pill. With the hunger laws, you can pick between soup and food additives. Both of these new laws will negatively affect your reputation with your people, but soup causes discontent to rise, and sawdust meal can cause some people to fall ill. Sawdust meals are more filling, and soup allows more food to be made with less raw food. Shift laws allow you to extend the shifts of your workers, at the cost of raising discontent. Emergency shift gives you the ability to force workers in a facility to work for the next 24 hours. Extended shift allows you to toggle the shift length in any facility to be 14 hours. And of course, this causes discontent as well. Child laws allow you to make use of the children of your citizens, and there are 2 branching paths for these laws to take. First, you can choose either child labor safe jobs or child shelters. Safe jobs allows you to employ children in cookhouses or hothouses, at the risk of them being injured in accidents, and hope falling slightly. Child shelters allows you to build child shelters for children to stay in during the day, giving you a permanent hope bonus, and hope will rise. If you pick child labor safe jobs, you can only upgrade it to child labor all jobs, allowing you to employ children in most workplaces, costing you hope and discontent, and they can be injured or die in accidents. If you pick child shelters, you can then choose between medic apprentices and engineer apprentices. Medic apprentices allow children from child shelters to help at medical facilities, raising their efficiency. Engineer apprentices allows children from child shelters to help at workshops, speeding up research. Now I'll call these laws the death laws. These laws also have 2 separate branching paths, and you can choose between the cemetery, which allows you to build a cemetery to prevent risk of disease from unburied bodies and raise hope, but each burial will keep people from work for a few hours. Or you can pick corpse disposal, which also prevents the risk of disease from unburied bodies, and preserves the bodies for potential future use, at the cost of hope and discontent, and you have to dig a snow pit. If you pick corpse disposal, you can later pass organ transplants, which allows the sick to recover faster, and then organic fertilizer, which allows you to use corpses as fertilizer in hothouses at the risk of hope and discontent. If you sign the cemetery law, your following option is ceremonial funerals. If you sign this law, the loss of hope caused by deaths is halved. Simple as that. The apathy laws allow you to reduce discontent by giving your people new activities, starting with the fighting arena, which allows you to build a fighting arena for your workers to reduce discontent. After the fighting arena, you can sign the dueling law, allowing your workers to settle their disagreements in spontaneous duels. This permanently reduces discontent, and each duel reduces discontent, but sometimes people will get killed in these duels. This is just the dead end of one branch, though. The other branch, starting with the public house law. You can send some of your workers to have drinks at a public house that you build, reducing their discontent and raising their hope. After the public house law, you have the House of Pleasure law and the Moonshine law. With the House of Pleasure law, you can employ prostitutes at the public house to further lower discontent, but hope will slightly fall. With the Moonshine law, your workers can drink liquor, which makes every meal lower discontent, and eating soup causes less discontent. Now finally, for the adaptation laws, there are the healthcare laws. For your first options, you can pick between radical treatment and sustain life. With radical treatment, the gravely ill will be treated in medical posts, and hope will rise slightly, but about 30% of the gravely ill treated in medical posts will be left as amputees, and discontent will raise slightly. With sustain life, the gravely ill will be kept alive in medical posts, but they will not be treated, and they will take up space, raising both hope and discontent. You can pick either one of these options, and both of the following paths will be open to select, one of which also has two different options to decide upon. You can choose between extra rations for the ill or overcrowding. Extra rations for the ill is pretty self-explanatory. It gives you the ability to use extra rations in medical facilities to speed up recovery. On the other hand, overcrowding doubles the capacity of medical facilities, but discontent rises slightly, and using the extra capacity will cause discontent. Signing one of these laws gives you access to signing the Triage Law, which gives you the ability to instantly heal half of your patients at the cost of a quarter of other patients instantly dying, also lowering hope and raising discontent. Hang on, is that how you pronounce that?
Triage.
I can confirm it is pronounced triage. That's the end of that branch, but don't worry, the other one is a little more wholesome. In the other branch, you can sign the care house law, which allows you to build care houses where the gravely ill are kept alive without burdening medical posts. They eat half as much, and hope rises slightly. And finally, prosthetics. Prosthetics gives you the blueprint to make prostheses in the factory, and amputees fitted with prostheses in medical facilities will be able to work again. The factory is a building you can research that allows you to make prostheses and automatons. See? I told you it would come back around. Eventually, in a new home, the main campaign, you'll be given the choice between order and discipline or faith and spiritual strength for new law paths. You'll still be able to access adaptation laws after this, so don't worry. These open up purpose laws, which are different for whatever one you choose. I'll start with order and discipline. Your first purpose law is Neighborhood Watch, which lets you build watchtowers, increasing the hope of people living in the radius around it. This opens two branches of laws, the left branch starting with morning gatherings. Morning gatherings slightly increase hope every morning, simple as that. After this, to end the branch, we have the Foreman Law, which gives you the ability to increase the efficiency of a workplace by 40% for 24 hours. Continue down the lower branch, there is the Guard Stations Law. Signing this law allows you to build a guard station, which raises discontent, but raises hope and lowers discontent of people living nearby, and you can use the guards to break up protests. After signing the Guard Stations Law, 3 new paths open up. Thankfully, the branch to the right is an immediate dead end, and that's the Patrol Law. This law gives you the patrol ability, which reduces discontent and raises hope slightly. To the bottom right is the Prison Law, which lets you build the prison and gives you the ability to round up wrongdoers. Prisoners will abandon their misguided views, and discontent will rise slightly. To the bottom left is the Propaganda Center, which lets you build the Propaganda Center, which raises discontent but raises hope. Shows detailed info on sources of discontent, and gives you the ability to distribute bulletins, raising hope. Signing the Propaganda Center Law opens another 2 branches. To the bottom left of the Propaganda Center is the Agitator Law. Signing the Agitator Law lets you build agitators, which are loudspeakers that raise the efficiency of nearby workplaces by 20%. To the bottom is the Pledge of Loyalty. Discontent will rise slightly, but people will be persuaded to sign a Pledge of Loyalty, which will turn them into secret informers, providing a permanent hope bonus. So after signing the Prison Law, you can also sign the Forceful Persuasion Law. This gives you the ability of Forceful Persuasion, which reduces the time prisoners spend in prison, but prisoners may get hurt or killed and discontent will rise. Both the prison branch and the propaganda branch lead to the final law of the Order Laws, New Order. With the introduction of the New Order, all who voice doubts will be treated as traitors. Obedience is the highest virtue, without which the city can't survive. All those who do not follow will be swept aside. Hope will never be a problem again. A public execution space will be built. Some public enemies will die. Some people will feel compelled to fight this law. Some of them will die. Both purpose arcs have these ultimatums that you might find yourself needing to use. But let's talk about faith. Do you have a second to talk about our Lord and Savior, Todd Howard? For the faith and spiritual strength path, you start by signing the House of Prayer Law. This law lets you build the House of Prayer and gives you the ability to use a sermon. People living nearby will gather to pray, raising their hope. Good for when you need those free, easy hope points. This opens up 2 branches to continue upwards. How poetic. To the top right, you can sign the Shrines Law, allowing you to build shrines which raise the hope of people working nearby, and increasing the efficiency of those nearby workplaces. Pursuing this route lets you have 2 more options to sign. Field Kitchens to the right, and House of Healing to the top. The Field Kitchen Law lets you build field kitchens which raise the temperature of nearby workplaces because they provide hot meals to keep the workers warm. Signing the House of Healing Law lets you build the House of Healing, which heals people slower than infirmaries, but doesn't require engineers, treats the gravely ill, and gives all patients a small hope bonus. While writing this, I just realized I didn't talk about the 2 types of citizens, besides children. Workers are just normal dudes, and engineers are like smarter dudes. They each have their own exclusive facilities they can work in, and some facilities allow both to work in them. That's about it. Going back to the House of Prayer Law, you can also have the option to go up and sign the Evening Prayers Law. This gives you the Evening Prayers ability, which raises hope and lowers discontent. Signing this also opens up 2 more branching paths. To the upper left is the Temple. The Temple Law, allowing you to build the temple, of course. The temple raises hope and occasionally lowers discontent, but also gives you the ability to raise hope and lower discontent with the ceremonial service ability, as well as access to the other faith-based abilities you unlocked with the House of Prayer. The Temple Law gives you access to sign the Righteous Denunciation Law, which raises discontent, but small amounts of resources may be uncovered, occasionally lowers discontent, and occasionally recovers small amounts of resources. Above the Evening Prayers is the Faith Keepers Law. These are basically the guards of the Faith arc, raising discontent, but you only have to build 1 seat of the Faith Keepers. They give you the ability Nighttime Procession, which reduces discontent, and they can break up protests. After the Faith Keepers is Public Penance, which gives you the ability to raise hope and lower discontent. But the ability can cause injuries, and discontent will rise. Following the Public Penance Law is Protector of the Truth, officially making you the only one who can tell your people what is right and what is wrong, guiding their faith. This gives you the ability Captain's Words, each use greatly reducing discontent, but signing this law raises discontent. The final law of faith is New Faith. With the introduction of the New Faith, all who voice doubts will be branded enemies of the faith. Everyone must be devoted to the survival of our cause. All those who do not follow will be swept aside. Hope will never be a problem again. A public execution space will be built. Some heretics will die. Some people will feel compelled to fight this law. Some of them will die. Essentially, with either one of these paths, you either become Hitler or Kim Jong-il, if you decide to take it all the way. Thankfully, usually if you pick faith, you're pretty easy off because you can just annihilate discontent and gain hope with a push of a button. It's pretty ridiculous in comparison to Order. They need to nerf God. Really, I honestly think Faith Arc is easy mode. But phew, I'm glad to finally be done talking about the laws. It was honestly a pain in the ass to format. Now I can just talk about the 3 scenarios that currently exist. The main story of Frostpunk is the scenario A New Home. Your people fled from London and crossed the sea to reach the frozen north. On the way, your convoy was hit by a blizzard and scattered. A handful of your people managed to reach the site of the generator, only to find it frozen and abandoned. And that's where you start. You're thrown in, and your first objective is to stockpile 200 coal and activate the generator. After stockpiling coal, you need to secure a raw food supply and find another settlement. After finding Winterhome, your people's hope tanks, and a chunk of them contemplate leaving your settlement to return to London, believing that London could never have failed. These are the Londoners, and the number of Londoners will grow or diminish based on your hope. Your objective is to prevent these people from leaving. This is when you get to choose between faith and spiritual strength, or order and discipline. This period of time dealing with the Londoners is quite long, and you can end up making the Londoners repent and realize the error of their ways, or you can beat the shit out of them. Eventually afterwards, 3 groups of refugees will come in from the Frostlands, and you can decide whether to take all of them, only the healthy ones, or don't take any of them. After this, you'll have to research a beacon upgrade, stereoscopic lens, to see an oncoming storm. Once this is researched, hope falls again, and you are given objectives to prepare for the storm. You need to rescue survivors from other locations out in the Frostlands, recall all scout and outpost teams, research generator power upgrade 3, research overdrive couplings, and gather at least a week's worth of food for each citizen. If you are able to gather these resources, your final objective is to wait for the storm to hit, and to survive the storm. During the storm, the temperature will drop to negative 120 degrees Celsius, and even to negative 150 degrees Celsius at the tail end. But when and if you survive the storm, that's just it. That's the end. You get to watch a time-lapse of your city being built, while text based on the choices you've made and laws you've signed appears and disappears. Honestly, as much as I think this is a cool feature, I hate that the text is mostly guilt-trippy. I've seen the text not say, "but I fear we have gone too far," about once out of the 6 possible times that it could have, and I think I'll touch on this later. For now, I'll talk about the arcs. As the brightest minds of Oxford and Cambridge, you have been sent to save priceless seed and plant specimens from the early winter. Your first objective is to research and build the beacon, and find the factory plans. In this scenario, your food, health, and shelter research options are neutered, and you can't build or upgrade the hunter's hut because all of your people are engineers. After acquiring the factory plans, you have to bring them back to the city, build it, and increase your number of automatons from 1 to 3. After you up your number of automatons, your new task is to have at least 2 automatons in the coal industry, and at least 1 automaton in the steel, wood, and raw food industries respectively. When your automatons are all placed, you'll be given 20 days to prepare for the oncoming storm. You must build 5 houses, disband all expeditions and outposts, gather 8,000 coal, and gather 500 rations. Eventually, a survivor will appear in your city to inform you of his own city, New Manchester, and their dire need of supplies. You have a secondary objective to scout the Frostlands to find New Manchester, and you can choose whether you want to try and help them or not. If you choose to do so, your first relief expedition is 600 wood, 600 steel, and an automaton. Your second is 2,000 food rations and 2 automatons. Your last one is 6,000 coal and 4 automatons. This all sounds ridiculous, but in this scenario, you're entirely capable of acquiring all of these resources and more. When the needs of both cities are met, the screen fades, and you get to watch more time-lapse and captions. You don't get to sit through the storm in this one. This has given me problems, though, because in my first attempt at this scenario, I totally thought that my automatons would be capable of stockpiling the coal throughout the storm, but instead when the timer ran out, I failed instantly. Since this scenario never gives you the choice between faith and order, the endings aren't drastically different, but they are based on whether you save New Manchester or not. I think ending-wise, this is my favorite scenario. Now, finally, the refugee scenario. You lead a group of poor refugees seeking asylum from the class-based system you escaped from to seize a generator and build a city where everyone is equal. Your first objective is to await the incoming refugee groups, build a beacon to signal your position, and rescue other groups from locations in the Frostlands. It's literally just that for about 15 days. Your city will grow as the refugees fill in. Soon after, however, 3 groups of lords will start to come in, and they will have various demands and different standards and expectations than your poor refugees. The first group of lords expects more food. The second group expects better health care. And the third is Lord Craven, the most hated lord amongst your people. If you let him in, discontent will rise and hope will fall. Eventually, your people will try to lynch him, which you can only stop if you sign the Faithkeeper's Law. Your quest is to resolve the class conflict, which involves keeping hope above 50%, discontent below 25%, and staying in charge for at least 1 day. This is the last quest before you get your time lapse. This scenario is definitely my favorite gameplay-wise. The progression is so quick and the social conflict is interesting and satisfying to resolve. And that's all the scenarios. We can finally start wrapping this disgustingly long video up. Now, in my terribly short rough draft of this analysis, I got this part completely wrong. There is, in fact, a difficulty option. You can customize the difficulty of each scenario based on people's needs, economy, weather, and society's attitude. These can scale in difficulty with easy, medium, hard, and extreme. I haven't quite dabbled in these settings, mostly because I already struggled with medium before I played everything 6 times on easy. Medium is the default difficulty, by the way. On top of all of those options, there's also a setting called Survivor Mode. In this mode, there's no active pause. The game will be very difficult, and your progress will be saved on exit only. I really like the idea of this mode because when I play this game, I mostly just go very fast until I get what I need, then pause and build everything en masse. And that's everything fact-based in this video. I can finally delve into the opinions and review and not play the game. At least until the next scenario comes out. Despite what I see in a lot of Steam reviews, I think this game looks great. I can run it on my 1060 at max settings and only get a small amount of frame rate drop. Besides, it's probably mostly meant to be played zoomed out. For a game with an incredibly dark premise, I somehow find tons of enjoyment in this building and city management game. I guess it's because, well, as long as you're doing it right, there's always something to worry about. Whether it be your ever-failing reputation with your people, your constantly draining resources, or that section of citizens bitching and moaning about London while you're putting your blood, sweat, and tears into keeping everyone's asses alive in an apocalyptic ice age. Good thing you can effectively turn into a Nazi eventually. A lot of the replay value of Frostpunk probably comes from how it might as well be a roguelike, with how much you'll find yourself restarting over small mistakes. Trust me, when you first start playing Frostpunk, you'll most likely find yourself restarting within 3 to 6 in-game days for your first 5 to 20 attempts. For Frostpunk, though, this works in its favor. It's one of few roguelikes. I'm only calling Frostpunk a roguelike in this context to compare it to other games that are trial and error. I know it's not actually a roguelike, where the immediate what the fuck response to failure is motivating and leads immediately into the next attempt, where I try to prove my goddamn stupid citizens wrong, and then I fail again and go, well shit, that isn't how to do it, like a clumsy virgin. The constant replaying also helps you to get engrossed into the world Frostpunk sets up, as long as it at least interests you, after the long cutscene that you'll most likely watch once and skip 20 times following. There are a ton of reviews begging for a sandbox mode, and I can fully agree. Though, with the mechanics of the game, I don't quite see how that could work, because the game is kind of meant to be lasted through. Like, when it comes to the storm in A New Home, that's supposed to be like the crux point. Literally with maxed heat and everything, maxed installation on everything, max heat upgrades, max everything, your people are still freezing in their houses because it drops down to negative 150 degrees Celsius. If this game had a sandbox mode, you would eventually hit like a crux point where progression is pointless. Now, what would be cool is if Frostpunk had a kind of offshoot game where you could run multiple generators or move from generator to generator with your groups of people to have some kind of variety, maybe to migrate around to avoid storms, hypothetically. Because I don't quite see how an endless kind of game mode would work with this game. Because once you have everything, you have everything. And I know I said earlier that the coal mines and the steelworks and stuff are infinite, but they're not really. They're only infinite in the terms of the scenarios because every one of them has like 100,000 of each resource in it and gets like 200 per day. And every scenario is about, I'm going to say 30, 40 days. It can vary. So I don't see how an infinite mode could work with this game. It would need a whole new mechanics and stuff to survive. I think I really only have 2 gripes with this game. One is that there's this sort of, I don't know if it's a bug or if it's just a miscalculation, but if your citizens are cold, if the weather drops and people are cold in their own homes, they'll give you this objective to heat all the homes. Now, I've had this scenario happen where I'll get this, and because I know I most likely will have the capability of doing so, I will say, I'm gonna heat all homes. They give you the option between like some or all, and you know, some will give you a small hope bonus if you can do it, but if you can do all, you get more hope. Now, like, I know I can do it, and then I'll research houses and house insulation, whatever I need to improve the heating situation. And like I said, I build everything in mass. So if I'm gonna heat all homes and I'm gonna turn hypothetically the tents into bunkhouses, I will make everyone tear down their tents and turn them into bunkhouses. You can build the bunkhouses over the tents, but your people will be homeless for that period to build the houses. And during this period, it'll be like last minute of the thing, and it'll say that the promise failed because all these people are too busy building the houses that they'll be warmer in to realize that they'll be warmer in these houses, and I've technically kept this promise. I think they need to add a patch to this to make citizens realize that they are currently building the warmer houses, so that I don't have to keep losing hope and raising discontent because these people think that I lied to them about heating all their homes while they are currently nailing the boards of their houses together that they will be warmer in. Just a thought. Though now I have habitually, if I have this quest, I will not make people build new houses, and I will try to do it based on fuel. But you have to maintain the warmth. I just think it's easier to build houses than to upgrade your generator's power and spend coal. This other grievance completely ruins the entire game and the entire point of the game, so there's no real fix to this. This is purely just an opinion, but hope and discontent is so dumb because people will get mad that it's cold during an Ice Age apocalypse. I would, like, how do you not just, like, look outside and be like, why is it so cold? Let me be mad at my mayor for it being so cold when fucking volcanoes erupted and shit. If I was one of the citizens in this game, I would just be glad that somebody's trying to run a city. Like, they're obviously doing their best, and everyone is obviously working together to live and survive together. I don't know what it is. I don't know why everybody has to get angry at me over tiny things during an Ice Age. Other than that, would I recommend Frostpunk? Conceptually, yes. I think this is a very fantastic game. I think it's a game where if you truly wanted to complete this game, you'd be able to sink tons of time into it purely based on the difficulty curve between all 4 of the difficulty options in survivor mode. The difficulty curve between medium and hard is off-putting for me. And, I mean, thankfully, I don't really need to complete the game 100% on every difficulty to give you an idea of how good the game is and give you every critique of it. The difficulty was off-putting to me. I tried to play a little bit of Survivor mode, tried to play a little bit of just hard difficulty, and that itself put me off. So, it's not... difficulty and trial and error is not my kind of game. Though, if you really love this game, I recommend it. For $30, I didn't know about that yet. All the expansions are free. I guess if you're willing to try to get all the achievements and sink all the time you want into it, $30, it's worth it. You know, I have my own personal ratio of price versus hours of gameplay. I'm not gonna pay $20+ for a 4-hour game or something like that. You really want to like get your bang for your buck, and I think Frostpunk can give it to you if you want to complete it. If you just want to play every scenario once and give it like a comb over, $30 isn't worth it. But I do think it's great. It's a great game. It's a very enjoyable experience. Very satisfying. Feels fantastic at 60 FPS and above. But then again, every game does. I don't really have much else to say on the game, so I think I'll end it here. If you enjoyed this video, please drop a like, subscribe, follow me on Twitch. I stream every single day. You can chat with me, you can watch my working process, you can watch me play new games and chat with me. I love talking to people on Twitch. It's the best. And yeah, please tell me what you think in the comments below. I've always wanted to make videos like this. People like Joseph Anderson and White Light and Cog Connected and stuff like that. Day 11, and I forgot to mention Shammy here. I miss you, fellow baby boy. I love you. They have all inspired me to really put my opinions out there in these long-form contexts, and I know I tried my best to make it as long as I can, but that's because, personally, I have this love for incredibly long overviews of games where people put their heart and soul into, like, just putting their opinion of a game out there. And you can watch devotedly and pay 100% attention visually, or you can fall asleep listening to it. Either way, I think it's an amazing format, and I'm glad to finally put something out like this. And I'm excited to do more. Hey guys, it's me, 10 days later. I just want to clarify that I know this video is very monotonous, and it's not really exactly as entertaining as I wanted it to be. And I think next time, for the next video, I am going to do a different format where instead of doing it like this one, where I wrote it all out on a script, word for word, exactly what I was going to say, I think instead I'm going to do it more off the cuff while rewatching the VODs and just sort of make it more natural. Because I think writing it down turned it into more of a task and a chore. It took away the natural element. And I think I'm going to change it for the next one. Sorry if you didn't really enjoy this one that much. It's not a good start, but everybody learns. The first is never going to be the greatest. If you'd like to see me critique certain other games, you can also tell me about that. And you can join my Discord to always be in contact with me. Thank you for watching, if you have. And see you later.